Peace, Knicks fans. It's Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises.
Stephanie from Queens Court and Dope Soul Sports Talk.
That's right, and this is the crossover. Thank you guys
Crossover.
for joining. Um, we have a screenshot that we're gonna put up on the screen for you guys to take a look at and examine, and kind of decrypt or decode what you think this particular flyer means.
It
Um,
was sent to season ticket holders.
Correct. Stephanie and I both have our own thoughts on what it might mean, but we're interested to know what you guys think. We're also going to drop that link again, get you guys in one at a time to kind of discuss what you guys think on a couple of different topics. So, yeah, with no further ado,
Let me
let's
hit it.
hit the button. I'm gonna go ahead and share the link,
All right.
and we'll see what we got here. You could
All right.
just lead this conversation off real quick while I.
Okay, sure. So this was the picture that was sent on communication. I believe it was a letter, an email, and I got it myself to season ticket holders or those interested in being season ticket holders. But this was the picture that was on the email. So a picture of RJ and Randall. So I guess we were trying to figure out, what does that mean? Does that mean that the front office is all in on Randall and RJ and kind of building this team with these two or around these two? Because usually, remember, we talked about the email communication that was sent to the New Orleans Pelicans season ticket holders, and it did not have Zion's picture on it. Like, and what did that mean? Did that mean that they weren't he wasn't coming back? So what does this mean, that Randall's picture is there? Does that mean that they're not looking to move him? Now listen, this is not going to stop them if an incredible offer comes across the table, right? But I'm wondering, is this an inkling into their thinking that we're not really looking to move this guy unless we're bowled over by a move? That's my take. But Tony, what's your take? And I'm interested in the chat's take.
And you know what? I agree 100%. I think that's the first thing I thought of is they put him in there. But not even to go even further. Like let's read the words, and there's no one reason, just one place. So I'm interested in your thoughts on what that means. There's no one reason. The first thing I thought of is there's no one reason or one person to blame. Or one
Mm.
reason that things didn't necessarily work out. you know and then just one place, obviously the Garden, is what they're promoting, and this is for season ticket holders. So that's the first thing that came to my mind. And also, as you said, with Zion, not only was his picture not in the flyer, but they named players and excluded his name. So you know it kind of struck me as, how you gonna leave him out completely. So very interested to know what the chat thinks about this.
Mhm.
And we could do a deep dive and kind of decode it. But what were your thoughts on the words? There's no one reason, or
I
and
mean,
there's just one place.
yeah, similar to what you were saying, that there's no one reason why this season was a mess. Right? There's no one reason, why we didn't make the playoffs, or why this reason wasn't a success. I mean, that's what I'm taking. That's what I'm taking from it. And interesting from the chat, at least the first two comments that I see here,
Hmm.
Nikki B from Harlem and Eddie Bravo, that doesn't think it means anything. Eddie Bravo said you have to put your highest paid player on the poster, and Nikki B from Harlem said, it would be really messy not to do this when he just recommitted um, last week.
And to be honest, it could mean nothing, and I do somewhat agree with that, because not putting his face on there, not promoting, your highest paid player, it just opens the door for more speculation, more controversy, more kind of content for us, you know what I mean, and other sources of media and beat writing. So I do agree that they have to be strategic in what they do, what they put out, what they say, what they don't say publicly, because in this market, anything and everything will become a story, whether it's factual or speculatory. So those are very good points. But that's the business. That's the field we're in right now. We're gonna look at these things and we're gonna try to break them down and decode them and see what they means. So to Nikki B and to Eddie, I asked my question to you guys is what about the wording? There's no one reason and just one place. What do those words mean to you as far as is it kind of maybe telling the fans to lay off of Tibbs, lay off of Randall? That there's a plethora of reasons. Lay off the front office. There's a plethora of reasons of why we haven't succeeded like we wanted to this year. Or could it mean something else? Maybe we're reading too deeply into it. Very interested to know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, and I got a question for you,
Hmm.
Tony, and if anybody in the chat want to answer it as well. If this were to mean that they're keeping Randall this summer, unless a deal comes that bowls them over, would you be disappointed? Like, do you when you see this, are you like, I don't believe this? Like, I don't believe that they're considering bringing this guy back.
Well, I mean, as most people who follow and watch the shows know, I am a Randall fan, so I wouldn't be disappointed. I think he could he could fix his mistakes, if you will, or kind of. I think he still can bounce back from the season. I know that's not a popular belief. So, but me personally, I think it would be a good thing, especially if that's what they're saying, that we're bringing him back and putting it out there and letting it be known. I think number one, that's a good confidence booster for him, letting him know he's safe if that's what it means, and it's also good for the team just to know that that's one less thing that you guys got to worry about, speculate about, and it's not on the table, so we can move forward with what we have and what we're doing. So I wouldn't be upset. But very interested to know what your answer to your own question would be.
Your mic has a lot of static.
Sorry.
Um, but
Let's see what I can do here.
Profound Clark said, I'm not mad or surprised by the image. He's on the team. He's the highest paid player. You got to do it. But it takes me back to that when they used Kimball Walker in that promo for the new uniforms, right? So they've done it before, even though he was the highest paid player. They didn't use him on the promo for the new uniforms. They used Kimball Walker. So does that mean that it doesn't really matter that he's the highest paid player, or are they learning from their mistakes and using him as opposed to a Rose or a Fournier or someone like that?
I mean, I think it would be the first one. I think they kind of have to do it.
Hmm.
Unless they just saying we're washing our hands with them, and then
Hmm.
it would make sense not to put them on there. But that also, like I said earlier, it opens the door to speculations and a lot of negative press that they're probably trying to steer away from it at this point.
Right, right.
I mean,
So it's um so okay. So you're saying it's okay. Okay, I get it. I
all
mean,
right.
for me, if would I be disappointed if this was true? Would I be disappointed if, like you said, this was them stating very early that this is the direction that we're going with, and this is their way of stopping the noise? It could also be a smoke screen too, right? Um, I wouldn't say I would be disappointed, but the caveat for me would be which Randall are we getting back? You know what I mean? Like if we're getting this same Randall that implodes and so emotional and doesn't know how to hone it, I think I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to be happy. But if we're getting the Randall that, sure, he may struggle with his game, but he's engaged and he's playing, 48 minutes and he has the right attitude and he's able to hone his emotions, then I won't be disappointed. It depends on which Randall we're getting back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. He definitely coming back. He has to improve. There's a lot of things. I mean, most importantly is it's the antics, it's the non basketball stuff, it's the mannerisms. I think that's the most important thing that he needs to fix. I think the basketball thing, I think that'll come naturally. I mean, he's a ball
Mhm.
player. He's a guy that's improved uh dramatically from year to year, whether people admit it or recognize it or not. Um, so I think it's the mental things that he does have to work on to fix. My question to you in the chat: if we're moving forward with these two guys, how big of can we pull off a trade, a blockbuster trade, or just a trade that improves us significantly enough without including one of these two guys, RJ or Randall?
Say that again.
Do you think it's possible that we can pull off a significant trade that upgrades this team without including RJ or without including Randall? And then I also have another question after that one.
It depends on how significant we're talking. Like if you're talking Donovan Mitchell and you're not putting RJ in that trade and you're not putting Randall in that trade, yeah, you can get it done. I do think the Knicks have a lot of young assets that players, I should say, and draft picks that Utah might be interested in, but you selling the house. Because you got to think about it. If you include RJ, you don't have to give up that much more. If you're not including RJ, you're gonna have to give up a lot. You might have to give up three players and three draft picks and two draft swaps. You know what I mean? Um, so I think it is possible, but you're gonna have to give up a lot.
Shout out to the super chat from Nikki B from Harlem. Showing public commitment to Randall helps protect his trade value so folks don't think there's a free sale at MSG.
A fire
Sig-
sale.
Fire
Yeah.
sale, excuse me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, great point. Great
Yeah.
point. And I, to your point too, Queen, it could be a smokescreen. So, and I'm not mad at that if it is, because number one, I don't think trading Randall right now you're gonna get the full value
Hmm.
of what he's worth. Whether even though I know a lot of guys are down on him, let's put a few things in perspective. 2010 and 5, they said there's only two other guys in the league putting up that number, 2010 and 5, and then you consider he's doing that on a bad year. He's doing that on what people are calling like you know a horrible year for him. So let's put that in perspective. 2010 and 5 while playing horribly. You know what I mean? And only two other guys in the league are doing that. He's not that far removed from being good or even great. I'm gonna leave it at that.
But
But you go.
I'm gonna push back just a
Mhm.
little, and I've been a Randall supporter as well. It's not just the numbers. It's not just his numbers. It's the other stuff as well that takes away from his game and takes away from the team. You know, so you can average 18 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, but you're playing hard, you're making the right decisions, you're engaged with the team, you're giving what you have, even if you're making mistakes, but you're honestly giving what you have. I would take that over 2010 and 5 with somebody that's I don't think. he's all about himself because I think he's really having a difficult time honing his emotions. But in the moment, it looks that way. Like in the moment, it looks like that when he's arguing with an official about something that happened 2 plays ago, and the team then already moved on trying to get this win, or we've
So
already won. And
you,
he's throwing the ball and running off I mean,
I agree with you 100%. I take the 18, 9, and 3 without the attitude, without the off the court stuff, without the slapping of the laptop all day. I am not disputing that. I agree 100%. To
Mhm.
me, that's the biggest part that needs to change. That's the biggest thing that needs to be
And
fixed.
but do you
Is
have confidence that it can be or that it will be?
I do. I do. I don't put it like this. I'm looking at it from this perspective. His attitude that he's shown this year in particularly, you
Mhm.
do that for 2 3 years, you're out the league. That's the way the league is today.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
That so I think I don't think he continues that. I don't think he can if he wants to be continued in the league. It's not like 25, 15, and 8 where a team might be saying, "Oh, I can tolerate that for that." You
Right.
understand what I'm saying?
No, I
So
do. I do.
so so it's as simple as that for me. His attitude, the way he's behaved, could very well get him out of the league completely if
But
it
will
continues, if it becomes a trend. So I don't think it continues. I think it gets fixed.
but this is and before we let Stafford Don in, this is my concern. Tibbs not holding, like, who's gonna hold him accountable? Like, who's gonna talk to him? Who's gonna let him know that that behavior is unacceptable? Now, people say it's Tibbs' job to do it, but I always say, in order for a coach to do it in a league like this, the way the league is now, you got to have the front office backing to hold the player accountable, right? Think about think about what happened in LA, where Vogel had to get the front office, approval to sit Westbrook in the waning moments of a game because of his poor shooting. How does Tibbs hold him accountable? Tibbs holds him accountable by taking him out of the game. It's going to be very apparent that he's out of the game after he went into it with an official or whatever, and he didn't come back for the rest of the game. The front office has to be behind it, so it can't just be Tibbs. Um, but I think if you do that, I think he gets right in a hurry.
I agree with you 100%. And to take it just one step further and be more specific with Tibbs in general, like he dealt with this with a Carl Anthony Towns, and there's speculation, there's rumors that that's why he was ousted, excuse me, as the coach. So if that's the case, think about how tough it is for Tibbs in the next situation where your guy, your number one guy, like how do you? There's a fine line. At least it's probably a little hard for him to discipline him and
Yeah,
and hold him accountable, knowing what he went through um in with the Timberwolves. So
right.
I agree. Let's get Stafford Don in here
Yes, yes.
and
Bring him in.
let's see what you gonna say.
As a matter of fact, let me
Um
take this out. Actually, if we just go, he's in.
yeah,
I think if we go
wait,
to,
yeah, he's in.
we
No,
just go back to here.
I think he got to come back.
Oh, Stafford
We
Don,
lost
come
him.
back.
We lost him. Um.
Okay.
So yeah, as we wait for them, anyone else, I'm gonna put the link back up in here one more time. Anybody else want to add some comments, give some intakes? We are definitely more than willing. There you go. Got that in there. Um, what do you, man? Who do you think is our biggest trade asset if we're not including these two guys in a move to improve this team?
Yeah. I'm not even. sure how much of an asset. Well, I guess Randall would still be an asset because I'm sure there would be teams that would think that it was New York and what have you. And I think if he was somewhere else, it wouldn't happen. And we got strong leadership here, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, he probably would have value elsewhere. Um, I think the players with the highest value on this team, other than RJ, and if you want to say Randall, would be Cam. Not that he played a lot, but people and teams I think are enamored with the possibility of who he can become. I think IQ has value, and there was one other player. Who was it? There was one other player. I don't know about. I don't. Um, Obi maybe. I don't know how much value. I'm not sure how much value Obi has.
So I'm thinking immediate. Obviously,
Mhm.
I'm gonna say Mitch because of the signing trade value.
Mhm.
The and it's kind of like 50-50 for me because
Mhm.
if a team has the opportunity to sign them outright, why do they even want to help us out in a sign and trade? You gotta
I
step
have
away.
to.
Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
got to stop.
Take care of what you gotta do. Um. So Mitch, I think immediate value he has it. I think we have to try to get something for him and not lose him for nothing. So that would be my number one. Quickly would probably be my number two. Obi would probably be my number three. Grimes, then McBride. I also put Rose in there, but I think a Rose trade would be more likely something of a trade deadline scenario instead of a off season scenario. And at that point, I think we probably could get a first round pick for Rose, depending on whom we're moving him to, what team. But I could have saw a team like the Lakers making a move for him if he wasn't injured um around the trade deadline and netting us a first round pick. I could definitely see Chicago having interest in him. Shout out to Latrell Sprewell, the American Dream. Salute to you, brother. Thanks for joining. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who has the most value other than RJ, other than Randall? If you think Randall has any value, um, as a potential piece to move in the offseason. Cam, I'm not too sure about. I think a Cam value is based off of upside more than what they've seen on the court, obviously. And then we got Steffa back too.
Yeah, we can let him in.
There we go. Peace, family. James, thanks for joining us.
Blessings, blessings. I don't know what happened to my phone just now. Yo, the phone just
I
dropped.
thought you got impatient.
Nah, nah. Queen, you know I ain't gonna never do you like that, man. Or my man Tony Crow like that. You know I ain't gonna do y'all like that. How y'all doing this evening?
Pretty
We
good.
good,
How are
bro.
you?
Just blessed, man. Just got off the works, man. And I heard y'all talking, So I said, let me chime in for a second.
Appreciate it. What's your take?
Yo, well, Tony, you know me and you, man. We big Randall fans, so I totally believe that he could turn around the season. I think the antics to me, in my opinion, is not really big of a deal. I think he can get over it. I mean, every star, every person goes through a bad season, a bad day. You know what I mean? So I believe he could overcome it. And that statement, what is it? No reason, no one reason, no
No one reason. Let me put it back up. No, there's no one reason, just one place.
no one. There's no one reason, just one place. I mean, there's no one reason, just one place. I believe there's no other reason to be a Knick fan but to be a Knick fan of MSG, which is just one place, one team. You know what I mean? So I think by that statement, just probably just saying, yo, these are the two guys we're gonna rally around. You know what I mean? There's no reason to give up on us. And I think that's what I don't know, this is probably my interpretation. That's what the organization is sending out to the fans,
And
even go ahead.
no, as you were saying it, I was thinking the same thing. Could this be something towards potential free agents or potential players saying there's no one reason to be here, but there's one place, the garden. So I thought of that as you were saying it. So I agree. That's a good take.
Yeah, so as Tony, man, a lot of people don't agree with our stance with Randall coming back, but I mean, if we take Randall off this team and we put Obi, can Obi fill in that void of a 2010 and 5 or even close to it?
No, but does he have to? So maybe he just goes, maybe he's just a 14-8 guy, but you're getting the rest of that production from somebody else. Like, I
So
don't
can
think Obi is ready to be in the role Randall was as a lead guy with all of the attention on him and their game plan. I don't think he's ready for that role. No. But, maybe he's 14 points, 8 rebounds, and maybe we get somebody else either at the point guard position or maybe somebody already on the roster that kind of steps up and fulfills that role.
because Queen, the only reason why I'm saying this because the way how this fan base is against Randall is like they just ready to boot him out and just have Obi, take the reins from then. So, that's just my stance on that for right now.
Mhm. But you're not concerned with, I'm not even talking about his game. Um, Even though he was not as efficient as last year, I'm not even talking about that. You're not concerned with what seems to be difficulty honing his emotions in these key moments.
Well, I think so because in the first year we roasted Randall. We killed him the first year with when Fizdale was here with all the spin moves and I mean all the other things. He wasn't doing all the antics in the first year, but all the spin moves and the turnovers and we was down on him and he came and he gave us that letter that he was gonna do better
Mhm.
and he actually came in the following year and he did better. He became the most improved player. He's developed the first year all-star. So, I really think that he could bounce back. I mean, I believe every superstar goes through a rough year. You know what I mean? And still average 20, 10, and 5. But it's just the little antics because I believe even though if it was a losing season, the antics wasn't there. I don't think we would be talking about getting rid of Randall or talking about his antics.
If what wasn't there?
I believe if the antics wasn't there,
Mhm.
and although we had a losing season and he was still bringing up 20, 10, and 5, I don't think we'll be talking about the antics. I think we'll be trying to improve the team and to see where we could take the team, RJ and all these young guys.
Now, now I slightly disagree with you. I think you and I wouldn't be because we're not talking about trading Randall. But I think without the antics, I think there'll be some people here still wanting to trade him. Some people just dislike him. But I do agree. I think the antics are the biggest problem. I think the antics are a
Right.
bigger problem than the field goal percentage than the 3-point percentage. I mean, even if the 3-point percentage stays at where it is, I think him taking less threes would benefit his game more. You know what I mean? Like if you're not shooting well, don't take those shots. I think the mid range, I think that will improve. His rebounding has been great throughout his time here. Defense has been on and off. I think that can get steady. That can improve. So there's a lot he can improve on. You know, I'm not holding him to this high standard, but I also think that the the hate on him or the dislike of him is too much. It's a bit extra. But I felt like that before the antics, So
Um,
I agree. I agree.
yeah. Well, thank you for dropping by, Stafford Don. Appreciate you.
yes, sir.
No problem, man. Always love chiming in and listening to y'all, man. Peace and love. All right.
All right.
Black
Salute.
is
Appreciate
time.
you.
Yo, black is top. Oh
Yeah, I
man.
mean it's hard to find a Randall supporter, and I'm definitely one. But I have to say, some of the emotional stuff is making me pause just a little.
And I'm with you. I had my moment where I was defending him. I forgot what the antic was, but it was one thing that I was just like, all right, enough is enough.
Hmm.
Like you can't do that moving forward. I still feel that way. Like I said, the type of demeanor and antics that he's shown this year is something that could very well get him out of the league completely. Where I mean, granted, he's under contract for what 4 more years, so it may take some time. But you better believe if it doesn't improve in that span, whether he's on the Knicks or on any other team, that's
Hmm.
not going to be tolerated. He won't get another contract after that. We've seen
Hmm.
what happened with better players in Melo, where he couldn't find a contract for a couple of seasons.
But
You
you
know what I
know
mean?
what? I think the Knicks are kind of stuck because this is going to be the first year of his extension. So they're going to get a few years out of that before he's out of the league, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
They're going to get a
yeah.
few years out of that. But I do hear people saying, um, you know, the antics can get better. It just seems to me he's always been an emotional player, but when the heat is turned up a little bit,
Mm, mm.
the emotionality is coming out a bit more, and we didn't even make the playoffs. So just imagine in a season where you're really in tough tight situations.
All right.
Mhm,
Here's something that I can say that is not in defense of Randall.
mhm.
When like you just mentioned, when the pressure's on in the biggest moments, I'd much rather him not have the ball in his hand, or at the very least, not be the decision maker.
Right.
Let somebody else decide that he gets it because they are reading the basketball court. They're reading the game and saying he has the advantage. He has the mismatch.
Mhm.
But so I agree with that. He's not the guy down the stretch. And that I don't know if will I can't even say that I believe that will improve.
Right.
But his value as a player, that is separate from whether he's a closer
Or not. That's a
or
that's a good point.
you know what I mean. So I that's not my argument at all. You know
Right.
what I mean. But I
Right.
do value what he brings to the table, and I think if utilized correctly, which
Mhm.
may mean him not being the decision maker down the stretch at the very least, I can live with that,
Yeah.
and that might help him.
Yeah. Shout out to G Robinson. Can you teach Randall basketball IQ after 9 years in the league? I mean, this is what I'll say about that. To me, that speaks to the front office. Why do you have you got to put your players in the best position to win? Now, this is this is aside from the emotional antics type stuff, which I have a problem with. We're just talking purely basketball. If you have a guy whose IQ is not high, why are you putting him in that position? Why
Hmm.
are you putting him in a playmaking position when he continually makes mistakes? Like to me, that's on the front office. You were supposed to bring in somebody, and they tried to with Kimba, but I don't know if they thought Kimba was gonna take the ball out of Randall's hands. Like you gotta that's what I'm saying. You gotta be clear from the beginning. Your role is changing on this team. We're bringing in so and so. They're gonna be the primary decision maker. I'm not saying you're not gonna get the ball, but you're gonna get the ball in your spots, right? The issue with his IQ is we're asking him to do things that I don't think
And
I
I
just
mean
don't
that
think I don't think I don't want to say the word built
it's,
for. He's good at.
here's the thing too. It goes back to that whole, like when you talk about basketball IQ, are you gonna judge a person's basketball IQ off of a single play or a combination of plays? Like to me, it's when you get into this the same scenario over and over that's when you can build your IQ. It's about learning from your mistakes. It's about learning from reading situations. I saw this situation before, so I remember from last time they're gonna do this when I do that. You know what I mean. So basketball IQ is not about that first time being in that position. It's about learning what to do when you're in that position from being there time and time again. Um, with a guy like Derrick Rose, I think
Hmm.
he's been in these positions. So number one, he's able to get the ball and decide, pass, shoot. You know what I mean? Break down the defense. He's done that throughout his career. So even in a lesser role, he knows how to do that. Randall has it, like we've talked about this. He's literally been in that position last year, been in it this year. It's still new to him. But I say that to say Rose is the guy that should be making those decisions because it's not new to him. He's seen it all. He's seen every type of defense. He's seen every type of double team. He's seen, he's seen every type of situation. And then the other guys can learn from Rose, learn from a guy who's been there already. I think that's one of the biggest things that hurt us this season, Rose's absence.
No,
Because
no
we've
doubt
seen it
about it.
last year. He took the ball out of Randall's hand, or at least took the decision making out of Randall's hand down the stretch, and he made those decisions.
Right. But when we talk in basketball IQ, are we talking about him in the waning moments of a game, learning how to close, learning how to um, um, will a team to victory, hit the big shots down the stretch, make good decisions down the stretch? Are we, when we talk about basketball Q, are we just talking about just his overall game and just knowing what to do in situations? See, when I'm talking, I agree with you. If we're talking about him being a closer, being a number one, I agree. He's never been in that position before. I've seen Paul George struggle trying to be a number one down the stretch. I've seen so many players, they had to grow into that. It didn't happen their first 2 years around. But when I'm talking basketball IQ, I'm talking broader than just those minutes. I'm just talking about just how you play the game, even in the first quarter. I just think that some of his like he just doesn't has that great feel for the game. Put it that way. He doesn't have a great feel for the game. What needs to happen in certain situations. This the game is getting away from us a little bit. Let me
Mm-hmm.
go in the post and get a foul and go to the
Mm-hmm.
line and stop the momentum of this other tean. You know what I mean?
So the question that the gentleman asked was, can you learn that? Because I still believe you can. I 100% believe
But
you
this is what
can,
I will say. Feel
especially if you're learning. Excuse me, but especially if you're learning it from a great, from somebody. Think about what Booker's learned from Chris Paul. An addition of a guy like Chris Paul.
Mhm.
Think about what Cameron Payne has learned from a guy like Chris Paul. Or
But
take
Cameron
it back.
Payne may have already had a good feel for the game. Look, so for me, feel of the game doesn't just start in the NBA. Having a good feel of the game, you could see that when they play in AAU. You can see
Agree.
that when they play in college. You can see it's feel for the game is different than stats. It's
I
it's just you. It's And
I
I don't
agree, but
think
that can improve.
it can
Is what I'm
improve.
saying.
It can improve, but in your eighth, ninth year in the league, if it hasn't, you've been playing basketball a very long time, and you don't have a feel for the game. Now again, this is different than learning how to close a game. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about a feel for the game. I'm double teamed, be able to hit that pass. You know what I mean? Hit this player. Um, his passes are hard. I don't know. I don't know about his feel for the game. I think because of that, I think you have to limit. He can still be effective, and listen. We don't talk a lot about how you construct a roster. You construct the roster to put people in the places in which they're successful. Take him out of that position. You know, limit his role to we're going to have somebody set you up. When you get the ball, all you got to do is shoot. Now, if you double teamed, of course you pass the ball. I mean, he could do that. But we don't need you playmaking, facilitating, and things like that. I just don't think he has a great feel for the game. I just don't.
I am on a total opposite end of the spectrum with this whole thing.
Wow.
I
Wow.
mean,
Okay.
now to say you don't want him to do it is one thing, but I mean, he's proven what he can do. Like he's leading us in assists. That's
What's his assist to turnover ratio, though?
I don't have the number, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's not great, but it's that same argument with the best guys throughout the league. Their turnovers are always going to be high. The guy who has the ball in his hand the most, his turnovers are going to be higher. So I I,
I know, but
I
some of
think
these
there's
turnovers
a
is just
medium. I
like,
think there's a medium where we kind of agree with each other, but I also think that there's a far end where I'm at and a far end where you at, where we just
yeah,
totally
yeah. I
disagree.
think you got to take him off the ball.
And I'm not opposed to that. I agree with that, but I also think that he has the capability. He's shown the capability to facilitate when he needs to, and I've seen that he's gotten better at that. So all of that to me is basketball IQ that has improved.
But
There's
he's
things
in
that
his
he
39th year in the league, though. You know what I mean? I mean, nah, I don't know. But I want to just Vaughn Allen. I appreciate you because I've said this. The read and react offense is great for high IQ guys. Randall's IQ, I'm not sure. Less decisions he has to make, the better. And this is one issue I have with Tibbs. And I'm a Tibbs supporter. But I said that from the beginning. He's right. The defense is going to tell you what to do when you have those high IQ players that can execute and be able to see this is what the defense is doing. I need to do this. I'm not sure we have a lot of those players on the team. So in those particular cases, you got to be like, look, this is what they are doing. We are going to do this. Like,
see.
don't leave it up to
All
them
right,
to read and react because
that's where I agree with you. Like we don't have an elite basketball IQ guy on this team, like a read and react
right.
guy who's going to break everything down. You know what I mean? But those guys are so far and few in between.
Mhm.
Like after Chris Paul, who's the closest guy to a Chris Paul type in this league?
But a read and react doesn't have to be a point guard. A read and react is just like I think RJ is a good read and react guy.
I
He
know
can
I
read
said
the.
Chris Paul because I think he's the best in the league at it.
Mhm.
So I was saying, like, who's next? Maybe LeBron.
But you talking about at the point guard position or
I'm
just
talking about just in general.
there's a lot of high IQ guys in this league. A lot of guys who understand the game of basketball and can execute it because you got to be able to process what's happening on the defensive end and then make the correct decision. There's a lot of guys, even guys that aren't even star players, that can do that.
I don't think there's many.
Wow.
I think there might be 20 in the league, and I think out of those 20, I think there's gaps, big gaps in between them.
that could run a read and react offense?
Yeah, because I think if you're that guy, you're gonna be the best guy on the team. A Jokic, a LeBron, a Chris Paul. Like there's not that many of them. Even
But
even
well,
the
maybe
other
we not.
greats. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like
I don't think we're talking about the same thing though. But go ahead.
I wouldn't even put KD in that category, or if he is, he's at the lower echelons of it because he's
Kevin
a
Durant?
scorer. Yes, he can score with the best of them, outscore anybody. But breaking down a team and then kind of like making his teammates better.
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying. I mean, like if you're gonna run a read and react offense, you got to have players that can process what a defense is doing and knowing what to do next. And KD is one of those guys. But I
Yeah.
hear what you're saying. I
Um,
don't think he's one of them guys that's gonna like break the defense down, get in the lane, spray it out to people. No, no, no. But I mean, he understands if I'm being double teamed, this is where I
yes.
need to go. If you know, so that's what I mean by like these read and react guys that can process what the defense is doing and then make a decision. I think there's a lot of those guys. How many of them we have? I don't know. We talk about IQ as much as he's improved his decision making. That's part of the decision making, being able to read what's going on and react and make the right decision.
I think we would
Talk
kind
about
of
two
talk
different
about two
things.
different things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I agree when you say that about yeah, he's gonna make the right read, but I don't know if he's gonna when he takes control, it's scoring. You know what I mean? Curry is different. He can
Hmm.
take control of a game and not score the ball. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean. Taking control of the game and not necessarily having to score the ball. You could be able to score, but you don't have to. You could win a game and have 10 points, but you're the MVP of that game. You know what I mean? That's the type of basketball IQ that I'm referring to. Um,
Understood. Understood. But Kerry Cox, I think that's why he only has four offensive plays because he feels that the defense is going to tell you what to do. We don't need a lot of plays. Just read what the defense is doing, and that's going to tell you what you should do. You know, perhaps that's his thinking. Perhaps that's why we don't have a lot of offensive plays.
Whew. I think I'm good. I mean, any other topics you want to discuss before we close it off? We got like 15 minutes before the game, so
Yeah. I don't think so. The chat, if there's something out there you want to discuss, drop it, drop it in the chat. Um, in the off season, the Knicks don't have any cap space. So I'm wondering, if there's any changes we're going to be able to make. A lot of it is going to have to be via trade. Um, and I don't know how much value a lot of our players have because of the season we've had, right? Noel's been injured, Rose's been injured. Burks played well the past few weeks of the season. Did that increase his value if the Knicks were looking to trade him? Um,
I think Burks actually has good value as well. Even though us Knicks fans all agree he's not a point guard, he probably shouldn't have been playing a point guard. I do think other teams might look at him and say, look what he did." Like you know what I mean? Like
mhm,
he had to fill a role that wasn't necessarily to his advantage,
mhm,
and kind of did it all year, still kind of maintained his average of who he is, numbers wise, statistic wise. He didn't necessarily take a big dip in
mhm.
his annual production, if you will, you know what I mean.
Right.
So I think his value, I think that might actually open some people's eyes. Like, all right, if
Mhm,
we get him and we put him at the two where he's probably best suited at, but we also have a guy who could kind of run the offense on a pinch if we need to, or
mhm.
for a couple games if we need to. So I do think his value might have actually increased
Hmm.
um
Hmm.
based off of this year and what he did. But yeah, I think Rose, they're gonna have to see it next year up until the trade deadline for his value to kind of peak. Um Otherwise it's gonna be like expiring contract value rather than production
Right.
value. Same with Noel. I think
Right.
expiring contract value more than production value. Mitch is the one that I'm so confused about because the sign and trade thing is not guaranteed. So I'm gonna be so bummed. That's gonna be the biggest Knicks and bruise for me
If we
if we
lose him for
lose
nothing,
for
no, it'll
nothing.
be a sign. We got to sign him, or it'll be a sign and trade.
I hope
Like
so.
that would be that would be. But for those asking about the draft, we're gonna get into the draft probably in the next week or so. I know on Queens Court we do a lot of draft shows, even by position. I haven't even begun to get into the draft um, yet. And then somebody else, because we asked if there was something that the chat wanted to talk about. I know Tony, this is something you like, a potential trade for SGA, but the question becomes, can you get SGA? I think you can without trading a Randall or an RJ. They're not going to want Randall. I don't think Randall fits their timeline. But I think we have enough assets and young players to trade for him without
Yeah,
having to put um,
yeah. Do
RJ.
you do you move quickly and another? I don't know. I'm not gonna name the other, but another young guy and picks for SGA because I think it's gonna take. If it's not RJ, it's gonna take two young guys and two picks minimum, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I don't know. There's players in the league that are really good, but don't pique my interest. SGA is one of them. He's a really
Mm,
good player. I had him on my fantasy team, so I know what he
mm,
can do. I followed him throughout the season, but for whatever reason, I'm not sure why he's not high. Like I'm not real excited about SGA, even though he can play as much as I would be excited about a Dejounte Murray. Who
mm.
may not have that high of an offensive upside, but what he could do as far as rebounding and assists and defense is more valuable to me. So yeah,
I,
I think you
I
can get SGA with two young players and two picks for sure.
I like Murray too. I think Murray is gonna cost more, and I think San Antonio has to feel like they won the trade to what I mean for you know what I mean. Like it has to be like people have to kind of think that we lost the trade for us to pull it off.
Hmm.
Where SGA it could be an even where you know what I mean even the outside world is like you know what that was a good trade for both teams and we could pull
Hmm.
it off
Hmm.
with the Spurs. Like we're gonna have to lose the trade to
Hmm.
the public's eye for us to pull it off. If that makes sense to you.
Hmm. Um, Junior honor or honoree. Yes, I'm giving up IQ and Grimes for SGA. We have Cam and RJ. Keith Turner. Appreciate you, Keith Turner, rocking with us. OKC ain't trading that SGA. You have a better shot at Josh Giddey, who I think OKC would part with before in SGA. I'm not sure about that. That may be why they would part with SGA because they have Giddey, whose jump shot is coming along, and he's definitely a better playmaker than SGA. Matter of fact, you could play both of them together because SGA can play off the ball
Mm-hmm.
at the two. I like Brogdon, but Brogdon's injury history, I would have to say SGA.
And let me ask you this: Are we if we sign in um the kid from Dallas that we keep talking about,
Brunson.
Brunson? Are we giving him a Brogdon contract?
Brogdon is making how is Brogdon making at least 20 or is it 17?
I think he signed a 4 year, $83 million.
84. Yeah.
So that's 21, I think.
Um, this is what I will say.
And if the money is equal, do you rather Brogdon or Brunson?
because of the injury history, I would prefer Brunson. If there was no injury history, I would prefer Brogdon. Um, but this is what I'll say about the money. Sometimes it's not how much the player makes, but it's how much this player makes our team better. And how much am I willing to give up to make that happen? Yeah. And I always go back to, now this was for a chip though. When Milwaukee paid Holiday, they gave up a lot for Holiday. And I
Hmm.
thought that it was more than Holiday was worth in a vacuum. But they were thinking about who's going to get us over the hump to get that chip, and how much are we willing to pay for a guy like that. And they went out and did it.
Yeah, I was high on Holiday from the beginning because you talk about top defensive point guard in the league, and that's all I was. And he was a dog on offense. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in spurts and moments. You know what I mean? He ain't gonna just dominate the game all game long, but he'll give you a good quarter, hopefully the fourth, but a good quarter of good offense. And you know what I mean, he could guard the one, the two, the three. You hear
Yeah, he
Durant.
can.
You
Oh,
hear
sorry.
Durant talk about he the best defender he's gone against. Like when the top offensive player says that, you know what I mean. You
Hmm.
you gotta listen.
Juan Allen brings up a good point. Do you have any concerns over bringing in a guy to help the Knicks win who hasn't tasted winning themselves?
Yes, because I feel like yeah, I think I said this like early in the year. Like you gotta
Hmm.
bring in. I don't care if it's the sixth man of a championship team. That has a lot of value because what he learned from those top five players and what he learned from just that experience is kind of priceless. You know what I mean? And I think most of the upcoming teams they
Hmm.
always bring in a guy off of a championship, whether it's the Van Fleet level, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
or the you know what I mean the A1 guy. So I do think you do need that,
Hmm.
but I think we've missed those opportunities a few times already. I don't know who the next guy of that caliber that's coming off of a championship. Now my question is, does it have to be a championship? Because that's what I was
But
saying. I was thinking
hmm.
a championship experience is is
Hmm.
is is the most value you could get. Now a guy that just made it to the East but never Eastern Conference Finals, maybe he did it three times, four times, but never won it.
Right,
What's that value? Because he
right,
didn't get over the hump. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm talking specifically about SGA. We talk about the numbers he's putting up on an OKC team
Mm-hmm.
that hasn't been trying to win since he's been in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Will he or can he move the needle? Not that we've done that much more ourselves. I have to say, except for last year.
You know why I like him?
Hmm.
It's more based off what he did in LA than what he did in OKC. OKC was kind of
Okay.
like sending him to the like putting him under the jail. You know what I mean? Like he
Hmm.
wasn't gonna like the best he could do in OKC is getting him to the play in probably, right?
Right,
And that's
right.
and that's an accomplishment in itself. What he did in LA with I mean, granted, it wasn't Lakers spotlight, it wasn't Knicks spotlight, but he had the spotlight on him. You know what I mean? The lights were
Hmm.
still bright when he was in LA, and that team wasn't expected to win, and he put that team. I'm not gonna say on his back, but he helped carry the team. You know what I mean? So that's where my mindset goes when I think about a guy like SGA. I think right now is he's stuck in like an unfair situation. You're not gonna win
Okay.
anything. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's I feel bad for him. It's like when people be talking about certain players, they be like, oh, "Get him out of there." Like that's how I feel about SGA. Get him out of there. Like that's not after what he did in LA. That's not that's not fair. I'd be
Right.
pissed.
And
You,
do you
you
see him as a point guard, or do you see him as more of an or off guard?
I see him as a point guard. I see him as a point guard. I see him as a offensive threat also, but I see him as a point guard.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And he has a good feel for the game. He has a good feel for the game.
Yes. and I can stand on that from what I saw in LA. You know what I mean? Like, and he had guys above him in the pecking order, and he took his spot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he said, "Nah, I'm gonna find my way in this pecking order." And
Mm-hmm.
you when players do that, you gotta respect that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so
Keith Turner.
That's why I'm high on him.
I think OKC would prefer Giddey over SGA too if you made them choose. I think Giddey is going to be. He's going to be one. Well, I don't want to say that. He has the potential to be one of the best players, if not just point guards in this league. I mean, especially with a jump shot. His feel for the game. And like you have players who can make plays, and you have other players that can pass you into a shot that you didn't even think. You just cut it to the basket. Oh, okay.
See,
Let me
when you talk about basketball IQ, and you talk about a guy like Giddey, and like that's next level. Like that. Like to me, that's
next level.
That's not regular basketball IQ. So
right, yeah,
like you know what I mean. So that's
You're
why
right.
I don't name. I name Chris Paul, but you know what I mean. Like these are next level guys that really overthink the game. It's like chess when they playing basketball.
Right.
You know what I mean? They see 3-4 moves ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But average IQ is what I was. You know what I mean? I think Randall is closer to average basketball IQ than below. You know what I mean? Basketball IQ, but he's nowhere near a Giddey, a LaMelo. You know what I mean? These guys that are beyond their years.
Shout out to you, Sean Kearns. I don't know if I said that right. I didn't know that was you. I was playing in a fantasy matchup and I got killed. And that's one thing about fantasy basketball, man. You can have the best team going into the playoffs. I never get comfortable. Because you go into the playoffs and you lose. And that's exactly what I had. The best team going in and lost. So shout out to you. Good competition. And I'll be staying away from Butler next year. All right. I guess we could get out of here.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Queen.
The coach as well. Yeah. Who's going to stick you in a corner okay. But players work themselves out of that corner. RJ worked himself out of that corner. McBride worked his way out of that corner. I think that's where you start in the offense. You start in the corner, and as you show progress,
Obi's getting out the corner.
Yep, Obi's getting out of the corner now. As you progress, you get out of the corner.
Oh, it's like old school punishment, right? Like get in the corner.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for
shout out to the chat
rocking with us.
Queen, I'll see you Monday. I should be good to go.
Queen's Court.
And back on my my grind.
Yeah. I always forget to drop the link. But if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, Dope Soul Sports Talk. I'll still be doing MBK content and rocking with them. But I'll be doing my own live shows, chat shows, and covering the draft as well. So just go to YouTube and Google Dope Soul Sports Talk. That's me. Subscribe to the channel.
And hit that like button.
Hit that like button on this channel on your way out the door.
Salute. Peace, Queen. I'll catch you on the post game. Your Blackest Time.